Good morning. Today we reach the letter K in our journey through the A to Z of biblical characters. And our subject today is a guy called Koheleth, the author of the book of Ecclesiastes. Koheleth's a Hebrew word and it means teacher or preacher. The first verse in the book tells us that he was a son of David. Traditionally, people have attributed this book to Solomon, but others believe it was written much later, perhaps an ancestor or a descendant of David. It's a wisdom book. There's a number of them in the Old Testament, but there's nothing quite like the book of Ecclesiastes. It has a strange beauty to it. And I've been reading it a lot recently, and I very much find it as a book for our times because it teaches us something really significant, and that is that we're not in control. Individually, we're not in control of our lives, and as a society and a culture and a world, despite our advancements, we are not in control. God holds our times in his hands. We pick it up at chapter 3. There's a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from their toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is a gift of God. I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear him. We go through different times, don't we? And when we're in a time, sometimes we feel it will never end and it will always be like this. But here, Koheleth explains to us that there are seasons that we go through, and there's not much we can do about them other than enter into them and trust God in the midst of them. We are not in control. And despite the apparent meaningless of life, God's promise to us here is that he wants to bless us. He's made everything beautiful in its time, and our hands, our lives are in God's hand, and he wants to bless us. And all he asks is that we trust him a day at a time and accept his good gifts. We're not to get anxious and fearful about the future, but just trust God one day at a time. So let's have a time for silence now and just have a few minutes to reflect on these words in our hearts and minds. Lord, thank you for this timely reminder this morning. We are finite, mortal human beings, but you are God and you are eternal, and our times are in your hands, and we trust you. We thank you for the gift of eternity for us if we just trust in you and follow your ways. And enjoy the life that you've given us. And I pray that for every person watching this morning, that they will live today in the joy of the Lord, whatever their circumstances. Amen.